You've had not a great 2 weeks. I just want to ask you a serious question. Forget the politics for a minute. Are there not moments where, you know, this is a difficult time to be a political leader? Are there not moments where you go home and think, oh, this is just too depressing?
Definitely not. Honestly, it's a huge privilege doing this job. It's a huge...
But you come out, you get beaten up sometimes by people in your party, sometimes by the media.
But that's part of the test. That's part of the test, is to be resilient. The thing I've got an opportunity to do is to make a difference to people, and that's why I'm in it.
But do you really... Is that how you really feel when you go home on a Saturday night?
Absolutely it is, yeah.
OK, well, there you have it. Now,
Tom,
yes.
This reminds me so much of the age of John Major when I was his press secretary for 2 years.
I won't take that as a compliment.
I will, no.
Well, he was Prime Minister quite a long time, to be fair.
If you manage to do it that long, well, you know, you'll see. But I mean, I would go and see him early in the morning before seeing the lobby journalists, you know, the people who come into Downing Street every morning when Parliament is sitting. And he would be raging and fulminating and things flying around the place and be full of depression. And I had to go down to the lobby. And they would say, how is the Prime Minister's mood today? And I would have to respond, just as you have just responded now, and say, he's wonderful, he's ebullient.
I don't read the papers, though. I don't read the papers, that's the secret.
Well, nor did he, up to a point. And he would say, and I would say, wonderful, you know, up for it, give him more of this stuff.
Yes, well...
And I just get a sound of that in the way in which Ed replied.
No, I think it's a complete, just won't get off the ground. I mean, I was looking up, everyone will know, of course, 1696, they introduced the windows tax in Britain. What did people do? They immediately bricked up as many windows as they could to avoid paying. I rather like the idea of all these people living in, well, mansions. You know, Ed lives in a house that's very expensive. Anyone who lives in London lives in a house that's very expensive. I love the idea that instead of having, you know, talking up your property's value, suddenly, instead of having the lovely smells that Phil and Kirsty tell us on location, you must have the kitchen smelling of bread and lovely, no clutter. So everyone will suddenly be having all the clutter and just kind of leaving all the kids' toys and saying, nah, it's not worth 2 million quid, it'll be worth 1,900,000. I just don't think you're going to have to appraise the value of all these properties. There are going to be hordes of appeals. It's going to be bogged down in admin. Dennis Healey, once the Labour Chancellor of Exchequer, said, in opposition, the golden rule is never promise to introduce a tax that you have no idea how it's going to work. Mr. Miliband.
Myleene, are you filling your home with things that don't smell good in the hope of reducing
No coffee will be brewed in my kitchen. For me, I think what is so disturbing is the name in its own right mentioned. So immediately you sort of conjure up in your head sort of these Barbie-esque houses, something like Blake Carrington or Crystal Carrington would live in. But in London, which is where 80% of the people who are going to be paying this tax actually live, in the southeast of England, have you seen what that amount of money from the rich? Because that sounds like that's going to get us more votes in the interim. But later on, as fiscal drag kicks in, we're all going to be downplaying. Yes, we are, Ed. You can't shake your head because it's just how it is at the moment. The way that house prices are working in London, the people that are the super rich who are buying their houses for 140 million, this is not going to necessarily affect them because they've got their tax rebates and they're amazing accountants. It's going to be the little grannies that have lived in those houses for years and years, and it's very kind of you guys to turn around and say, well, don't worry if you can't pay the tax now, we'll take it when you die, and the inheritance tax as well. It's going to be their sons and daughters who are then lumbered with this.
I mean, look, I totally
don't agree with it.
I get that impression. Look, I understand that people don't like paying more in tax, but you said there was a window tax, Alison. Actually, there's something called the bedroom tax.
Well, that didn't work either.
On the poorest people in our society.
My nan lived in a council tax,
I understand, Myleene, but let me just say, the values of my government are going to be different than the values of this government.
Everyone says that, but
how? Well, how? I'll tell you how. I do think that the richest people in our society, we're talking about 100,000 homes. The top. Let me just finish.
Let's hear the answer.
Let me just finish. Yeah. The top 0.5% of homes, we're going to uprate it in line with the rise in house prices for the homes above £2 million. So more people won't be dragged in. If you're somebody who's earning less than about £40,000, you'll be able to defer the payment until you sell the home. Till you sell the home. But look, I'm going to have to make really difficult decisions. Yeah. I understand you don't like it, But I'm going to have to make really difficult decisions about how we're going to fund our NHS, how we're going to make our society a fairer society, and I absolutely defend the...
Ed, how much are you actually going to make from this? Because you don't have a definitive number.
£1.2 billion.
Really? Because at the moment, some people are saying that there are 58,000 of these houses, 2 million and more, and some are saying there's 100,000. Some are saying you'll make £300,000 for the NHS, and some are saying you'll make £1.2 billion.
Okay.
That's a huge...
You're going to screw me royally if you...
I think you should pay more in tax, Christopher. I think you should pay more in tax. I think...
You've had your say. I'm going to have my say now. 1% of the population of this country, 1% of the richest in this country pay 28% of the tax burden. So already the rich, whether you like rich people or not, are contributing a significant amount. You've got to keep quiet for a minute and let me speak. This is a democracy, for Christ's sake. And now you put me off my stroke. If you are a pensioner... and you're going to be whacked to 1% of the value of your house, and you are living in London. £2 million captures semi-detached houses.
Can I just say how much people are going to pay?
Catches small flats.
For 1 second.
I live in an end-of-terrace house. I am asset reasonably rich, and I do not earn a great deal of money. You bring that in at 1%, and I will not be able to live off my pension.
Ed's getting a bit isolated here, and this is one of those difficult moments.
No, but maybe he's
there are people who might be paying.
No one thinks it's going to
but
work.
It's a difficult moment because this is one of those things where you do get, perhaps one might say, London against the country.
You've got people on middle incomes who've seen their taxes rise. Now, I just say that's not fair. And I say when the NHS is crying out for resources, we've got to make it more efficient. But let's be frank about this. We've got to face the fact that the NHS is going backwards under this government, and it can't survive with just the kind of resources that it has. Therefore, I think it's right
to save the NHS. Is that your only option? You might as well just tax them on this glass of water. You can't just point at things and tax them. You need to have a better strategy and say, look, why is the NHS in this mess in the first place? Who's handling that? Who's managing that?